Hi all, I have another exciting game to show you from the Ultimate Blitz challenge. So yeah, I'm trying to show you more than one in a day because there's so many that were played in the space of 2 days, just 5-minute games. Fabiano Caruana, the current US champion now, was playing against Kasparov. So this is round 18, the final game of the tournament. So could Kasparov win this final game? He'd just previously beaten Nakamura, so it's on a bit of a high, and if he could win this, that would be really great. End of the tournament. So he responds here with knight f6, and we see both sides fianchettoing their bishops. c4, d6, b3. We have e5 here, bishop b2, and if white's left alone, then d4 is going to happen. Now Kasparov clamps down on that, but he is weakening his light squares. It's a simple way of suppressing d4 though. e3, we see knight c6, knight c3, and although white's playing for d4, Caruana has actually subtly weakened his light squares a bit. And we see after bishop f5 an immediate idea of bishop d3 if white doesn't play d4 now. But there's also ideas potentially of queen d7 just to swap off that defensive fianchettoed bishop. We see d4. Now here we get an overprotection strategy, e4. This is one of my favorite strategies when I play the Reti system with white quite often, that you can overprotect a central point here. Nxd6 called it overprotection, and it's usually this e4 point if you're playing black, or e5 for white, because it's also good for sometimes a kingside attack. If you can put a lot of pressure behind this point, overprotecting it, it makes things like f3 sometimes more difficult, because sometimes there's so much pressure that the e3 pawn will be exposed. Black builds up a bit, and you can see he's got 1, 2, 3 pieces overprotecting e4. It's a strong point for black. Caruana plays knight c2, and with this strong point, a direct attacking move can now be played, h5. So it seems already a very, very promising position for black from an attacking perspective. Queen d2, and Kasparov just goes for h4. He's not worried about the center at the moment. It's not even moving his queen. Bishop a3. Okay, now he sports, out of necessity, the c5 pawn. Rook fd1. We see the bishop kicking that rook away, so Kasparov is still not moving his queen. It's here though for queen d7. He wants to be able to play a move like either bishop h3 or even bishop f3 and reserve this whole diagonal for the queen. b4. And in fact here we see queen f5, and this gives some opportunities for things like queen h5 as well as bishop f3. We see now bishop b2, rook ad8. So white's play in the center doesn't look too convincing. If he can never really play this move at the moment, his queen's in the wrong place. We see knight b5. And is it a worry, this pawn? Black just carries on, trying to weaken white now on the light squares. d5. Now this does move this knight away from a7, but who wants to take this a7 pawn with the king like this? Bishop takes g2 looks very dangerous for things like even h3 check. We see this dangerous knight being taken off, but downside the dark squares. White's worried about his king here. If we use Kasparov's own quotation, if your house is on fire like king safety, you don't worry about a pawn on the queen side. Yeah, white doesn't really want to take this pawn on the queen side. He wants to try and defend the fire against his king. But h takes g, and this is difficult for black, because difficult for white rather, if white plays h takes g, then queen h5, and then things like knight g4 becomes possible. And how does white actually defend h2? This whole strong point, the overprotection of e4, is reaping huge benefits. This was a strategy, by the way, that Fischer used quite often, strong pointing e4 and then going for an attack. We see f takes g, weakening though e3, and this is directly now used. Bishop h6, pointing at that vulnerable e3 pawn. Rook ab1. White's player just being very passive here. King G7 just vacating H8 for a rook, potentially. Rook B3 just trying to defend. Queen H5. So now there's potential ideas of rook H8 and just moving the bishop away for H2. We see H3. Is this a good defensive try to try for G4? Well, after knight H7, what is White doing here? He's just in such a passive state. Caruana plays G4, but guess what Kasparov plays here? Very aggressive, logical looking move. If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video here. Yep, just snap it off, bishop sack. So 2 pawns for the bishop, but we've also got the prospect of knight G5. Coming into F3, we've got the prospect of rook H5, rook H8. It's all pretty dangerous. White tries to relieve the pressure, but Kasparov is keeping the queens on and putting more pressure on E3. White has to defend E3 again, but now comes the knight. So we've still got things like rook H8 and knight F3 on the cards. King H1, it does seem a bit suspect to put the king on the H file here, but White is running out of moves. Rook H8, this is pretty grim for Caruana. Not the greatest end to have his king potentially massacred now. Knight takes D6. Okay, Kasparov now just shifts his king, so he's got a discovered check with his bishop now for bishop F8 hitting that knight if needed. B takes C does protect the knight, but now this discovered check against the king, and it's pretty crushing now after knight H3 check, putting the king on F1. Kasparov wants to play rook F5, so he just snaps off this knight first. C takes, rook F5 check. So crushing, made it look so simple, this attack. Knight F3, rook takes F3, and now finally Caruana resigns here. It really is hopeless. Yeah, what a devastating crashing attack, crashing through like this. To be fair to Caruana, he did survive in an earlier round, a vicious attack, and managed to get a draw, even nearly winning on time if you try to win on time, maybe that. But it's a little bit more difficult because there's a 3-second delay that can be used or taken. So it's a little bit more difficult to go for a win on time. It's not as bad as just a straight 5-minute game. This 3-second gap which can be used by the players. But this was, yeah, a pretty devastating final round attack and shows the brilliance of Garry Kasparov. So in the end, he came above Caruana, but below Nakamura and Wesley So. But even so, an astonishing performance. Because he's really been retired. He hasn't been playing professional chess as in one-day chess for years, but he has been playing some exhibition games. As we know, the Nigel Short match was very interesting as well, which is on the channel. So this was a really crystal clear attacking strategy demonstrated, though, I think, in this game, and I hope you'll agree that overprotecting that E4 gave gave Black, a blistering attack, which seemed to play itself to a large extent. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.